Hi, and welcome to Close Up with the Hollywood Reporter. We are here with Kathryn Hahn, America Ferrera, Emmy Rossum, Issa Rae,
Me too.
Minnie Driver, Pamela Adlon. Thank you guys, and I think we will just dive right into this. So we're gonna start with what I hope is a fun icebreaker for everyone. What's the most embarrassing thing that's ever happened to you guys as a performer?
I did a sex scene and was wearing one of those modesty patches, which is like
Chafing.
And it's kind of like nonsense because then you kind of just stare at like a weird sticker. And I could feel, I had to like go back like this and I could feel that it had shifted significantly to the left. And I could only imagine the POV of my co-star. And that's all I could think of. I was like, oh my God, that just must be. I cannot imagine. But anyway, he was a gentleman about it, thank God.
It was a beautiful POV.
Oh, lordy. Yeah, I was hot, red-faced and hot.
That's only happened to me like 35
Yeah, I
my
know.
show. Like
I was gonna say
every other week.
Yeah, I have a lot of those from Californication, like fucking on the sink, and then the sink breaks, and then the water shoots out, and I'm in the little thin dress with the G-string, and I feel the dirty like studio water like going up my pussy, and I'm like, I have hantavirus now. Like I'm sure this shit is ending today. But I'll tell you a really embarrassing one. I was a teenager and I was shooting a show in Vancouver, and I was supposed to be being like a girl, and I've always been like very kind of awkward, whatever. And I'm having a relationship with this guy in this show, and I was wearing a silk shirt.
Yeah.
And the director comes over and he's like, okay, so you're serving him at the bar. And he goes, what the fuck is that? And
God.
he points to my armpit and I was sweating. I had a
That's the
huge
worst.
sweat stain.
That's awful.
And I died.
Oh my God, well, he sounds like an animal.
I was humiliated. I was a teenager and I was so nervous because I was in this silk shirt and he goes, what the fuck is, still to this day haunts me. But it was huge. I was just like, oh, I just spilled. It's actually, I'm sweating. He was horrified, but yeah, that was the worst.
You know what they do if you're
No,
tall?
he clearly knew what it was. He just wanted to make her feel bad.
I guess, I don't know.
He did clearly know what it was.
That's terrible.
This doesn't apply. This would never happen to you. But on many movies I've done with actors who are mostly short, they would dig me a ditch. They would dig you a hole to do a kissing scene in.
So that you could be
So you'd be in there and down with the mud and the dirt and below. And I remember just voicing early on, wouldn't it be just a bit easier if maybe he stood on a half apple or a whole apple?
Yes.
Than dig me a ditch. So you're like,
I have never felt sorry for tall people until just
it was
this
really
moment.
embarrassing and awful. And I remember saying it happened twice. I remember on both occasions saying to the actor, isn't it weird for you? And they were like, no. It's fine. It's great because now we're at the same height.
Oh God.
That's sad.
That was embarrassing.
Yes.
That was embarrassing and sad.
I have big feet, and it sucks. But to that note, like just being tall, not as tall as you. But I remember just being on stage, and it was just a small moment on set, and them trying to figure out whose sneakers were on set, and just asking every man, "Hey, are these yours? Hey, are these yours?" And then me having no, those are mine. Just shut up. It's fine. We don't need them. That's it.
I was doing a scene, not this season, last season, where I'm just supposed to be asleep in a bed. And Bill Macy comes in and he takes a pair of shoes and he urinates in them and then leaves. And we did it so many times that I actually fell asleep. But I woke up in the middle of the take, not even knowing where I was, and did one of these, like, I'm not sleeping. And then realized we were rolling and like, tried to pretend like I wasn't still.
Oh my God.
It was like a very bizarre.
While he was urinating.
Did anybody catch you?
in your shoes?
I was fully on camera, like in the scene, waking. It was horrific.
Oh, God.
They were like, "We're gonna go again."
I wish I could ever be that relaxed.
And you were directing that episode.
I was not directing that episode. I'm like, that's great. No.
Right, unless you can top that.
Yeah.
One like humiliating thing that happened to me a lot when I was on Ugly Betty, I had to wear these braces all day, so they came in and out all the time. And they cut together like a whole outtake reel of like 52 times during the season that I drooled on myself. And I used to like blame it on. I'm like, so sorry, so sorry, it's the braces, so sorry. And then of course on the show I'm on now, I'm not wearing braces and I have drooled on myself. So it's not braces. It's a thing. I don't know, like maybe when I'm really focused, like maybe I get so focused and I forget to swallow and I drool on myself.
It's kind of like, yeah, a lot of that. Goodness.
Oh my God. What are we going to do with that reel of you just drooling? Was that just for...
They just, my cast just wanted to laugh at me.
It's a fun rap party.
We're helping people with this roundtable.
We are.
It's a big deal.
You are not alone, yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Minnie, I know you've said with your role on Speechless that this was a role that a lot of other women didn't want to take because of how sort of unlikable the character was. And yet that was a piece of what appealed to you on some level, the challenge of that.
Well, it's one of my strong points, you know.
Yeah.
Being awful, but relatable.
No, but what is the appeal of playing someone who isn't sort of on the face of it likable?
I actually have a real problem with women being called unlikable because you never hear that about a man. You never hear it about such an unlikable bloke. You have... They're funny, they're called anti-heroes, and they're funny and they're strong and diverse and interesting. She has a very heightened set of circumstances. You're handed a baby who a doctor tells you is never going to lead a typical life. They probably won't walk, they probably won't talk. You face down this horror, and you're then in the roses. Everything after that, the baby lives, you love, your family comes back together. The small stuff doesn't really apply. You don't get worried about it. You say whatever you think. I feel like she has a different set of tenets by which she lives. And some of them are really not likable, but she's human in that way. I don't mean for her to be liked, but I think a lot of actresses were worried that that would somehow tarnish them.
JJ is so excited. He's never had an aide speak for him before. Just Mum. I suppose he is 16 now. It's time his voice changed. Oh, yeah, no, that means he's laughing.
If it's something that you celebrate, someone's diverse emotion, then that's interesting as an actor. I like it.
Sure.
I like that. That's got likability written all over it.
And there's liberation in it, too. I mean, I think my character on Superstore is so different from when I played for 4 years. Betty was like, you could throw anything at her and you could shit on her and she would just smile and keep going. And that was easy for me to play, especially as a 20-something-year-old who knew that my role as a woman was to like make people like me. And Amy on Superstore is so different. She's coming from such a different place. She has a job that is just a job and she doesn't seek her validation in it and she doesn't need people to like her.
Adam's sleeping in the basement. Yeah. I told him I wasn't happy. I don't know what I expected him to say, but he said I'm not happy either, which is definitely not what I expected him to say. And so we talked about it, and then we yelled about it, and then we just stopped talking. And now it's all weird and tense, and Emma's all upset, and it's miserable.
Amy, I am so sorry. Do you want a balloon animal?
Thank you. Playing that role as I am growing up as a woman, there's liberation in feeling like I don't have to make everyone like me. And it's okay if people don't like me. Like I can just be a person in the world and it's not the end of the world if somebody doesn't approve.
It's very antithetical to being an actress because we are groomed and raised to be people pleasers, and we've got to make everybody like us because we've got to be in competition with every other girl in a way that men really aren't, I don't think. So I think it's systemic in how we're raised as women, and particularly women in this business.
Yeah.
Have you guys at times thought about that? I mean, you talk about sort of being afraid of how it would tarnish you as an actress. I mean, are those conscious thoughts that you guys have in taking on roles?
I run towards it.
Yeah?
A movie that I did when I was in my teens, the producer came over to me and was like, we just, we want the character just to be more likable. And I was like, I can't play that. Even at 16, I don't know what that means and I'm not going to do that. This is a quirky, smart, no, that doesn't make any sense to me. And with my character on Shameless, it's been so many seasons now. Feels like she's gone through so much. I mean, I went to jail for cocaine and overdosed a toddler, and still somehow found the humanity in that, and redemption afterwards, and the dark, fucked up comedy in that. And you know, I guess there was a moment where I thought, like, oh God, is everyone gonna hate me? And then I thought, like, who cares?
Okay, Connie, no bullshit. What's the cheapest way I can get this woman into the ground?
No embalming. We keep her in the fridge until we can cremate her and give you back the ashes in what is essentially an old coffee can. $750.
It's like you can never play for a joke. You have to play the reality of the situation and play the humanity of the situation. And whatever anybody else takes away from it is a reflection on them.
It's so true.
And nobody is one thing. Like we're all everything. And surely that's the whole idea of being actresses. Actresses are asked to be that. It's often pretty two-dimensional. A role will be far more two-dimensional, not the roles that we write for ourselves necessarily. Or certainly these particular roles sitting around here. But usually, I don't know, in all the movies I've made, you're constantly being asked to elevate the material, expand it, fill it, create layers, find a calibration in it. So it does become the most interesting thing to see, where you go, where the needle goes from awful to great.
I think it may feel more amplified just because television shows these days are more like publicly social in terms of the conversation, and people tend to be quicker to take sides. But I think that's the most compelling element, that people are drawn to a specific trait in female characters specifically. I think for me, in watching television, I'm always like, what can I talk about? What's the piece of a performance or a choice that I can most relate to, that I can put myself in those shoes and be like, would I do the same thing?
I made a mistake, but at least I can see the shit that I do wrong.
Well, what do I do wrong, Issa?
Do you really want to know?
Please tell me.
Okay, have you noticed, Molly, the common denominator in all your can't find a man bullshit is you? Yeah, let's do the nigga rundown, Molly. 1 minute, he's too thirsty. The next minute, he's too distant. The next, he's too gay. And then when you do find someone that you actually like, you ruin it by doing too fucking much. You act like finding someone is supposed to be some sort of fairy tale, but it's not.
The character in my shows is named after me, and that was purely by accident. It was an untitled show, and I was just like, I'll just call the character Issa for now. And then it just aired that way, and then I just didn't realize the implications of people being like, fuck her, fuck Issa, she's trash. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, that's me. But I think professionally, I think I would be the hero in my own life story. But personally, people would look at my story and be like, no, why are you doing that? You're trash. You are. So I think in real life, I am trash. There's elements.
And you embrace that.
And I embrace that. And that's the fun part of it.
You
and I
look
feel
really
like everybody
today. You look really good.
I don't think you're trashy.
No, but I think I have trashy traits. Thank you.
I got you.
Who doesn't?
And that's fine.
Yeah.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't? Exactly.
Well, that's like, I was playing a rabbi on a show, and then I went from that into this character of Chris Krause in the show I Love Dick. I mean, she is not what you would call a likable person. She's like very myopic. It's like, she becomes obsessed with this gentleman named Dick, and she writes him obsessive letters over and over and over and over and over again. And it's like through this letter writing that she kind of finds herself.
Is it possible that I saw you on a horse yesterday?
Yeah, I have a ranch just outside of town.
Oh. How big? Curious.
You want to know how big my ranch is? No more polite to ask a rancher the size of his acreage than to ask a lady her age.
Duly noted. Well, I'm just, for the record, I'm on the dividing line. I'm straddling 40-ish.
Straddling?
In the contradiction and hunger is the beauty. It's like in that, we're not just the good girl, the bad girl, or the girlfriend or the slut. It's like trying to put all those pieces of being a female that have been put onto us. We are actually creating
eating
our
them
whole
all and
selves.
just regurgitating them and vomiting them.
Just
on
need
everyone.
authenticity I'm so turned on by you humans.
All of that is for my show. This season that I'm shooting right now is I'm exploring people who've done fucked up things, having a redeeming quality. Last season, the guy who's the father of my girls on the show, we sit down in a restaurant, and it's like a horror movie.
It was horrifying and amazing.
Oh my God, I can't wait to see it.
It was so intense to do that
horrible.
scene. You want me to help you make the girls not be upset that they still won't get to see you even though you're gonna be around.
It's a really big opportunity.
Xander, they don't care.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm telling you good news here, man. You don't have to worry about it. They're living their lives. I mean, they're happy if they get to see you, but they don't expect anything from you. He was like, well, it's very complicated. I'm like, I'm sure it is. Okay. And he
Huge
goes,
silence, huge
and he
silence,
goes,
Naima.
thanks for your help. And I go, thank you for your help. And I stand up and I walk out of the restaurant. And so I knew like I wanted this song Cherry by Rat-a-Tat, which just goes boo doo doo doo. And it's a song that my kids have played for years. And it's just haunting and like I get chills. And my note from the network was, we don't want you to stay on him because we're feeling a little bit of empathy for him. We want to leave with you. And I said, no, I'm interested in him sitting there in the fart that we just made in this restaurant. What's going on with this guy? That's the thing that's so great to explore that. That gives me goosebumps.
I agree.
And it's interesting.
It's not the finite idea of like you're the dick in the scene. It's never that simple.
Yeah, right.
He is a dick, but he's a person sitting there at the end having.
Yeah, it's like I want to go in there. I want to go inside him. That's fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's what I think we need more of in our art and entertainment and in our culture.
Yeah.
Like being able to not have the good guy and the bad guy, but have more curiosity about what gives rise to that behavior, what gives rise to the anger or the
that's right.
The separation from. I think that's super exciting.
Yeah. I'm curious, I mean, Kathryn, you're someone who moves very fluidly between film and television. Are the roles... how did the roles sort of that are offered to you differ in terms of the sort of layers of a person? And Minnie, you could probably speak to this too.
I mean, yeah.
Are they more layered as in one
think
as the other?
that I've been really, I don't know how, but I've never been interested in labeling myself as a comedian or a dramatic. Like, that's like, I don't see the difference. I think that, of course, I would never consider myself like I see improvisers and I'm like, oh my God, like that's an improviser, like that's a comedian, like that's a stand-up. I have to have it like rooted in something or else I can't do it, but I just never have had to. It's crazy, exciting.
Well,
it's
you're
awesome that I could
good
do
at drama because you're a great comedian. You know, that's why, I mean,
Tears of a Clown, guys.
You can't flip over, you can't do comedy. If you're just a dramatic actor, you can't go to comedy, is what I'm saying. You're covering everything because of all of that.
Why is that? Because it is harder to go, if you're known as a dramatic actor and when you hear someone being like, but I'm like, everyone, I'm hilarious.
Because it goes deeper. Because comedy goes deeper. It does. It does.
Yeah, it's like this. You're just exposing
it just
yourself.
does.
I think they're all the same.
You do?
I think it's I think it's just finding the truth in whatever moment and calibrating. It's either, I think they're completely the same.
Pushing, well, we think you're wrong.
I once auditioned for a play that was written by Marsha Norman, and it was a very dramatic crying scene. And I remember like being in the hall, like doing my emotional...
Was it Night Mother?
No, I don't remember what it was.
Wait, I was thinking that.
But I went in and I did this like sobbing. I was sobbing, and it was like something about how like my mother had died or something, and I felt really good about it. And I went in and I did it, and they all laughed.
Ooh.
And I was like, what the fuck?
Wait, were you really young? Were you?
Yeah. I was like 13, 14.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know why they were laughing, and it just made me cry harder, and then they laughed harder. And then I went out and I called my agent and I was like, what the fuck? They laughed. And she was like, it's a comedy.
Hey!
And I was like, what? And I was like, I fucking nailed it.
Did you get it?
Yeah, I fucking got it.
No, man, I
remember what it was. I
can't name
couldn't do it in
names,
the
but
end.
I can tell you,
Nice.
like, there's a bunch of people, they cannot turn a joke, and they're not interested in doing it. And I totally get that when you're staying with like the truth and the depth and really well written comedy that it's truthful, but I can't. I wish I could just blurt it out right now and just go.
No, because there's sometimes I feel really not funny,
It's
you
like,
guys.
dude,
Like
don't
sometimes
even try.
I am like,
let's stick it. No, stinky doesn't work, and that's okay because what you do is great.
but I like sometimes I just like when you see. Sometimes it's like when I see a joke, it's like really hard. I don't know if you guys ever feel this, but like sometimes when you see it coming, it's like
It gives you such
and then you start to see like
anxiety.
every other funnier person before you, and you're like, oh my god, I'm like free falling into like a nightmare.
Don't you think that has to do with the
self-confidence?
100% for the win.
Because she's a director, that's why she knows. That's where she'd come in and how she'd get you to turn the bloody joke.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, before I was a director for years, and I've been doing, voices and animation for years, it doesn't matter how many times you've done a certain thing or what level you're at. If you're feeling a little bit like off that day, you walk into a session, there's fucking Jim Cummings and Billy West and all the big greats.
The episode with Hanson Zimmer, when you walk in and Julie Bowen,
you're like, let's just go.
You're like, it's
it's like if you're doing like a voice and they're like, okay, so you're the army guy, the mom, and the baby, and then you're doing the voice. It's like if you sit there, you don't have a minute to like go in your head and get it.
Yeah.
And if you feel a little, not so there, it's not going to be as good.
Yeah.
Your confidence has to be up here.
We just self-sabotage.
There's also something about like not exuding the maximum effort. There's just something comedic about just saying it and not putting all of
not trying too hard.
Yeah, not trying too hard. Exactly that. And I think that sometimes getting in your head, you'll try too hard. And then even I found like. I started off acting and stuff in high school, and then...
where did you grow up?
Where'd I grow up? I grew up here, mostly.
Oh, you did?
In LA. Yes, that's where we are, in LA.
Yeah, I know, totally. Take a second.
Me too, I grew up in LA.
You grew up in LA? Where?
Yeah, I grew up in the San Fernando Valley. In
Valley.
I think that counts as LA.
It does. We would fight when we were younger, but we'll claim it now.
That's Fancy Valley.
What high school did you go to?
Valley.
I went to King Drew. It was a medical magnet. I thought I wanted to be a doctor.
Smart people school.
Barely. Yeah. I'm not a doctor, so I didn't make it. But
you are to me.
Can you look at this mole?
Get out. I know. But no, I was saying like before, in terms of acting, I got into directing like in college later, and that's when I realized, I wasn't a good actress at all. Just in terms of working with people and realizing like the choices that they would make, and there's a certain effortlessness to I think comedy that doesn't necessarily ring true to drama to me. I think that so much of drama is being in tune with everyone else. I don't know. Now that I'm saying that, it feels like that's so much of what comedy is being like being able to read a room and being able to express yourself in a way that people relate to and ultimately touches their funny bone. But I don't know what my point is.
That's okay. I'm going to jump in. America, you've said that this role is the first one that's been offered that was not to you, that was not written as a Latina character. Curious if that's sort of good fortune or that's a sign of true progress.
I think it's probably a little bit more complicated than that. I mean, I think that I have worked in television now and film for years. And so my personal success, as much as I wish that equated to a certain broader success and more opportunities for more Latino characters, that's not always necessarily the case, right? We came out the gate with Ugly Betty, and it was years and years and years after we went off the air that there was another Latina main character on television. So where you would think it's like, oh, it works, let's go in this direction, it doesn't always end up that way.
Right.
And so I think, fortunately for me, I've established myself to a certain degree. So I'm so lucky that I now get considered outside of the box of Latina. I don't think that's true for everyone. In the way that, like, when Halle Berry gets considered for, roles that are not written Black, that's not necessarily, that doesn't apply to everyone.
Sure.
So But that's not to say I don't think there hasn't been progress. I think there's been progress. But if we don't get in the positions of power, if we can't tell our stories, if we can't write and direct and produce our stories authentically, then those roles and those opportunities that feel new and fresh aren't going to come. And I think the same is true for people of color. I don't think we can just assume that the same people can stay in the positions of creating and they're one day going to wake up and understand our experiences and write to them.
It's important that you raise your hand and say, I want to do this, because people aren't going to assume that you want to do this or can do this. I mean, sociologically, that sounded crazy. Sociologically, we're kind of like programmed to be a little bit deferential, to be likable. I mean, even, it was funny because I was watching, do you guys watch Feud?
Oh,
it's really wonderful. And they were talking about, even in that day, the idea of a woman director. Those women were like, well, I would never work for a woman director. And these were the female actresses. So just the fact that women now have to raise their hand and ask to be taken seriously and not apologize for it.
Right. And there are only so many of us in a position of access and privilege to get to raise our hand. And it's true, those of us who are in that position have to challenge ourselves to do it. But that is one argument. And then the other argument is there are so many people not in the position to say, like, well, I want to do that. And that's what needs
For me, I felt like, even though I'd been on my show so long, it was something that I really wanted to...
But you're directing some of your shows.
Yeah. I directed an episode of my show this season.
That's amazing.
Oh, studs!
And
I directed another show for TNT.
I don't know about
great,
you, but
man.
like I found it hard to ask to direct. Like I had to kind of...
Well, I kind of quasi-asked for a while. I was like, I think I'd like to do that and pick me.
Yeah.
And then actually like went to NYU and got a teacher and learned a little bit about cinematography and felt like I kind of knew a little bit more of what I was talking about, and then said legitimately that was something I wanted to do, and then didn't totally fuck it up and got another opportunity to do it. So that's really kind of empowering and exciting.
Jill Soloway, who did Transparent and then also with Dick, always talks about directing. It's like you're constantly saying, I want. And there's something so amazing about that, just like a woman and just saying, like, I'm going to just go for what I want, like my desire. Like, what do I want to see? What do I want to, like, it's such an interesting, awesome combo.
Issa, you've talked about one of the goals of this show was to make people of color relatable.
For me, it just came down to just telling human stories.
Yeah.
Like, we are all human at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's even in watching television my whole life and seeing, oh, this is a Black comedy and this is a white people sense of humor. And the two never really meshed. And I remember even being in high school and, went to a predominantly Black and Latino high school and people telling me I was white people funny. And I was like, what does that mean? So I'm not, okay, I'm only funny to white people, but you're laughing and you're Black, so what does that mean? And so wanting to explore that, and again, even with the show, just trying to be funny, putting people in realistic situations. And I think within our writers' room, we're people from all different backgrounds, all different ages. That also helps in terms of extracting very specific, relatable stories. We literally spend time just talking mess and talking to each other, much like what's your most embarrassing moment here, or what's the time where you felt the most uncomfortable. And I think we're telling a very universally specific story. Like, it's specific that you're following, two Black women, but at the same time, these are all situations that relate emotionally. Like, everybody's been in a relationship of some sort. Everybody's felt insecure or socially uncomfortable or inept. And I think that's what we really try to tap into, is just that core feeling. So you can't say, oh, I don't relate because this is a Black show, so I can't relate.
Right. Yeah. What are the roles that you feel like you sort of get tired of being approached for? Or perhaps this happened earlier in your career and you were able to fight against it?
There was certainly a best friend chapter of my life. I felt like I was constantly the quirky best friend to like a various blonde stars.
And you were always the funniest person in the movie.
But those parts are always like the, that's where you can be. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's
but
like
everybody could tell watching it like, oh no.
Well, you love the best friend. The best friend is lovable.
Judy Greer and I, who was a goddess, we both had been kind of playing best friends at the same, like kind of always kind of neck and neck for the same best friend parts for a second there. My husband was like, you guys should do like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern type movie where it's like the best friends, and every so often you see like Kate Hudson running around behind. But it kind of just focuses on
like extras, but with best friends.
Right, exactly.
Well, Meryl Streep said I feel like it was right before Mamma Mia. She was like, I've been offered my 6th witch in a row. And I was like, I'm fucking done. I'm done with like the witch period of my...
And then she did Into the Woods.
And then she did Into the Woods, exactly. But wait, but a lot after Mamma Mia.
Yeah.
But wait, aren't women... I mean, I hate sort of saying that we're created out of some sort of patriarchal idea, but we sort of are. You're not given that many iterations of what it is to be a woman in film and television. Well, you certainly haven't been up until now. Now being the golden age of television, I think, where you can do whatever you want. You can write whatever you want, you can direct it how you want, and you can embody it. You can be unlikable and explore what that looks like and
you
it not be
can be
frightening.
the lead and the funny one. Like even here,
you can be the character. You can be
crazy. The best friend gets to be funny, but the lead, you just have to
it's not like
just be pretty, easy, nice.
But also, it's just about like, especially in the show, you know, we have an all-female writing room. Like, it was a pretty blessed experience, the making of this show. Underneath that title, that's what was so awesome is that, of course, it's under this like salacious title of I Love Dick. It's like actually like has such a feminist heart, but just to feel the eyeballs behind the camera as all women or feeling like you are the subject and not the object is such a crazy shift in autonomy. Like, so you're not just like coming in to sit on a mark and say you're like, there is such an, I mean, I'm sure like that's what we all feel turned on by too, is like just to feel in control of your narrative. Like not to feel like it's out of our hands, like to be the one who's telling our story is like, it's a different shift. Because I had to do a lot of like pretty risque stuff in this, I'm like 1,000 years old. Risque in this show, but it felt safer than being on a network show doing some smooching scenes.
Right.
Because the eyeballs behind the camera are looking at you like, you know, with the spray gun and the chicken cutlets and the hair extensions, and you're like, I feel less myself and more self-conscious than I did just feeling like empathy or just like feeling like given the autonomy, for sure.
Speaking to that, Issa, you've talked about how you wanted to sort of flip the script a little bit on the nudity front and push for men to sort of be in that position too. I'm curious, how do they respond?
Get your balls out, boys.
But do they respond differently? How do they?
Get the D.
Do they respond in similar ways? Are they equally as uncomfortable or comfortable?
I mean, if they are, earn baby oil. But if they are, they haven't expressed it. But I found that a lot of the guys that we worked with have just been all in, like balls to the wall. No balls have been on walls. But just they've been really great about and generous with their body parts. Because they understand that too. And, you know, I've had some of the actors come up and just be like, yeah, I think it's cool that the women aren't as nude on the show, and you know.
I think we should be equal opportunity.
I'm always like, it should be
P&D.
100%, but that's also been a source of conversation. Because I would like to see more dicks, but then I'm just like, you know, in those conversations, not everybody wants to see that.
I only really want to see any nudity if there's a purpose for it. For me, like, I am okay to be as naked, kind of, as you want me to be, within reason. If it applies to the story,
but
if it serves the character,
that makes a difference. Because
absolutely.
I have just seen gratuitous breasts and vagina, and it's just like, why is that? I mean,
because it's an object.
A risque.
Because it's not a part of the narrative. Because it's an object.
Risque
vaginas.
Wow.
But it is.
We have seen a lot of risque
because when you just see certain body parts, that it's, you know that it's because they watching it, it's, you know what I mean? It's for something else. That is an object.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting that when we do these kinds of round tables, we talk so much about sexuality. And when we do the drama round tables, we don't talk about the horrific violence on so many of the shows. And I don't really have a problem with nudity. I have a problem about people's heads being fucking bashed in and children watching that. I don't have any problem with children seeing a woman topless. I don't.
My son loves it.
How old is he?
Ooh, he's 8. Ah, look, Mom, look, it's something on the TV.
So
it is tricky to have like your child come up to you and be like, "You working on dick today, Mom?" Like just so casually. It does take you a little bit back for sure. What are you working on today, Mom? Dick? I was like, oh God, what's happening?
Yeah,
what have I wrought?
Getting that dick money.
Getting that dick money. It's gonna pay for your little league, baby.
Dick pays the bills.
Emmy, you were recently part of David Schwimmer's collection of short films to fight sexual harassment. I'm curious what role that's played in your career, but also how your response to it has changed with time, with experience, with confidence.
I've never been in a situation where somebody asked me to do something really obviously physical in exchange for like a pay-to-play kind of a situation. Wash this car and you'll get the job.
Wash this car? I would have done that.
There's a famous story about an actress who had to audition by washing the director's car in her bikini.
Yeah.
I know. And
I think it
was the thing.
I'm sorry.
And so even as recently as a year ago, my agent called me and was like, I'm so embarrassed to make this call, but there's a big movie and they're going to offer it to you. They really love your work on the show, but the director wants you to come into his office in a bikini. There's no audition. That's all you have to do.
What?
Wow.
And I was like,
but you're already doing Shameless and we see your body.
I've already seen everything.
He wanted to know if I was fat now.
Oh, that's so deep.
So I actually had this moment where I was like, how good is the part?
Yeah.
For a second.
Would I do it?
I was like, would I do it? How good is the part? Send me the script. Maybe the character's in a bikini in the movie.
Yeah.
Not in a bikini in the movie, not naked in the movie. And I was just like, this is actually really happening.
So confusing.
And I was deeply upset.
I just can't believe that the word fat was anywhere.
You know, we really love your work, but we really just want to see how tight your ass is. Like, are you fucking kidding me?
Okay, so here's the thing.
Last time I checked, I'm not a fucking model.
There's always going to be someone with a tighter ass and better boobs, and there's always going to be
younger,
that person.
thinner,
so
blonder, richer, whatever.
Until we change. So that whole narrative.
By the way, I did it. Just kidding, I did it. And it was just,
So you change it. We change it by sitting here and talking about these things. We change it by writing shows, by directing them, by you do your whole Rilke bit of living the answer.
Yes.
Because God knows the questions that are posed to women so often are not only offensive, but it's like these dinosaur ethics.
When I was 15, like my second movie, and it was like a really independent movie, so it was like run and gun, and we were just stealing locations, and we played orphans. And we're shooting at one of those houses on Sunset on the way to the Palisades. And you're always supposed to have a guardian on set when you're a minor, but mine was like gone. Like they dropped me. Go make your move. We'll pick you up later. And we did a scene where we broke into the house and then we go swimming in the pool. And so the scene is after, and I have a towel on. And the director comes over to me. He goes, Pam, it would be really funny if you like drop the towel. Just drop the towel and we could just see your butt like really fast.
How old are you? Right?
I was 15.
Oh my God.
I just didn't know what the fuck to do. I was humiliated, and I found some strength of this me now where I said, I don't feel comfortable doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I remember I had to kiss one of the other orphan kids in the movie, and I had never kissed a boy. And he said to me, an apple is an apple, a plum is a plum, a kiss isn't a kiss without the tongue. And I was like, I'm gonna die.
Oh my God, it's amazing.
Fucking
awful.
limerick.
How about when a guy goes in a sex scene? I'm sorry if I do, I'm sorry if I don't.
Yeah, they always do that.
Get the bone.
Do they? I haven't done that many.
I had a fellow who actually was so nervous. A fellow. Now I had a fellow who was so nervous that he might get a hard-on that he filled the cocksock with sand, which just ended up really chafing the both of us.
And like all over the bed.
Just not. It wasn't a bed. It was.
Because I've never been asked to audition in a bikini.
I mean, so I guess that's why I wanted to do that series, because I think that whether you're in Hollywood or not, these kinds of situations happen, this kind of inadvertent, even like bringing up sex in a conversation, just to telling you all about your sex life with your girlfriend or whatever, just to kind of like add sex into the conversation. And people have to know that it's okay to say, no, I don't want to talk about that. No, I don't want to do that.
Don't you think because we talk about it more now, that's how how the conversation changes, and that there are so many avenues now for commenting on this, like whether it's a blog, whether it's a post, whether it's whatever it is, that one can go, wow, this person asked this thing of me the other day that felt sort of antediluvian, and it's where it was appropriate. It was nuts.
I don't know what that means.
It means back to the flood.
Okay.
It means pre-flood.
Got it.
Like that antiquated
everyone
of
else
an
know what that
idea. I'm English, aren't I?
We were just gonna let that slide?
No,
sorry.
I'm storing it.
Context
For
later.
Also, I'm like starstruck.
Context.
I'm like, it's Minnie Driver and shit.
One of the things that came up with you in the last year or so was...
I was wondering how many questions we were gonna wait till you were gonna bring this up.
Well, the salary
what did you just
charity
ask?
piece, where I think it is interesting is I'm curious, A, how many other actresses you heard from, and B, if you felt like you were fighting for something larger than just your paycheck.
What is it? What's the deal?
Asking for the same amount of money that a man makes on a show.
For God's sakes, yes.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal, and it became a big problem.
I wouldn't say it was acrimonious, but after a very, very long kind of stalemate negotiation, it became public. Which
So was that
wasn't-
trying to shame you into something? Yeah.
I don't pretend to know anybody else's motivations. But I mean, when we started the show, obviously Bill Macy was the green light for the show. As Bill Macy is an Oscar nominee. I was 22 years old. And then as the show started to really get legs
It
and
became
it
you.
felt a little bit more weighted in Fiona's direction. And it felt, I mean, I started to take on a directing hat and kind of, take a leadership role. And, and something that at one time felt okay that it was unbalanced started to feel not as good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that it was difficult for me at first to say, this is what I think I deserve, because I think that you do want to be liked and you do want to be.
And how do you bring it up? You go to your agent manager, go, it feels like.
Well, when your contract is up, as it was, I waited for it to be up, and then I said, I've loved my experience.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy and so proud and everything, but I just want this to be right if we're going to keep going.
I should be compensated differently for moving forward from this point.
Did you hear from? I mean, this is the sort of
no. I mean, it wasn't public for.
I didn't know about it. I mean,
long time that it was going on, and when it was finally public, it kind of took me aback.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, the person that supported me most through it was William H. Macy,
which is
to have the man counterpart on my show be like, yes, she does deserve this and more, was so validating. And after that, after it became public, it was a very quick resolution.
Do you think those male feminists in our lives that they?
Well, I mean,
they are the
he's
ones that are
married
helping
to
us
an
turn
actress.
these.
He has 2 daughters.
We need everyone to feel
that it's
this
wrong.
is unfair, so that you don't have to couch it in polite, like I deserve this.
Yeah,
language.
that's what I mean. Yeah, that it should just be
just like, hey,
should be right.
But that's the unfortunate.
I don't know if you know this, but Suzanne Summers went through this with Three's Company, and they got rid of her.
Yeah.
She was like a huge star on that show, and I know everybody thinks it's like fluffy and stupid 80s, but she was like on the cover of every magazine. She was massive. She's a fascinating woman. They made a documentary about this, and basically she asked for equal pay, and they said no.
You're fired.
And they not only said no, they said you're fired, and she had to come and do one final scene where they let her in the back of the set. They made a fake Hawaii porch for her, and she calls, Jack and Janet, and she's like, I'm in Hawaii, I'm never coming back, bye.
Oh my God.
And then they escorted her out, not to see anybody, blow her off, and that was it.
And is that the message that then sends to women in Hollywood?
And that
you
was
shouldn't
in
speak
the
up.
70s.
Okay, so let me ask you this: what do we do? Maybe not even women who are in positions of power, but like But what do they do? But do they do the Steinbeck thing where you all go, well, I'm not going to work for that, and they go, well, there's 20 other women who will. Do you take a stand and go, I'm not taking that role because there is no parity? It's insane.
Well, it's hard because there's gender inequality when we look at any business. It's not just Hollywood.
No, exactly.
We look at people in the medical industry,
Absolutely.
people in government, people whatever.
There are no female chairs at UCLA. I was having this conversation about women on the phone with my manager about getting paid. The nurse and the doctor, both female, both said, nurses, the men get paid more than we do here. There are no female chairs in the UCLA medical department. There's an interim chair who's a female just while they're waiting for the dude to come back from his holiday.
So, I mean, and I don't know if this is true, but it's the same exact problem with white women and women of color as well. There is a difference in how they're compensated. And so whether or not you want to say it's a gender problem, a race problem, whatever it is.
So is this like
it's
intersectional?
My thing was just like, I need to do something to make it right for me.
Yeah.
So that I can feel good about doing this job. And when it became such a big thing, I was like at a health food store in Canada, and this little girl who worked at the health food store came up to me and she was like, what you did for gender equality really meant so much. And she's not working in, and just the fact that I touched a real person really meant something to me.
So are we supposed to say no? Are we supposed to say no? What do you think?
That's the solution, because, I mean, I think the thing is obviously there's a bigger picture and people are going to take from your actions and your successes and your failures what they're going to. But each of us, we find ourselves in different places with different platforms and different kinds of access. And we have to get right with ourselves the way you did, of saying, this used to feel okay to me, it doesn't now. And coming to terms with that, and then having the conversation with the entire system built around you to keep you from asking for more. I feel like most of the times that I have had to ask for something, I had to convince my agents to ask with me. And there's a system, and it's like having to turn to your agent and say, I want this thing, and them saying, we don't think you should ask for that.
Because they're afraid of the no and what would happen, and
that,
Suzanne
or just the idea of like, we don't think you're going to get that. You know, this is a really good opportunity, and the feeling of coming to your own, coming to your own place with saying, what makes this worth it for me?
Yeah. What if you've got a mortgage to pay and you're looking at that the men are getting paid in a movie, for example. They're getting paid not just twice, but maybe 4 or 5 times. And it's a 3-hander piece. And a woman is getting paid, they've actually just apportioned out so significantly less, but the part is great and it's the same screen time. And you've got a mortgage to pay and you want to be a good actor and you want opportunities. What are you supposed to do? Are you supposed to take the part? Or are you supposed to go,
I guess for me
no?
it was different because it had been 7 years.
It's different, and you were right to stand up and
do
say,
another 2 and be like,
it's different. It's different for everyone is the thing. It's like we have to take the shit, even though we can get inspiration from one another and feel like when any of us wins, we all win. We can't shame each other because we all have different situations.
Yes.
And we all have different leverages.
And it's accountability now, at least. Like I feel like now there is something just obviously in the air that these things are, but it is like there's accountability now. Like you can't, like someone can't just out and out not pay you what you deserve and not have you have a platform to be like, really?
But you guys know it's
rest of the planet.
All a game.
Like,
it's like every single time it's this dance. So you sit there and you're like, you don't want to get locked into a contract, a 5 to 7 year contract. You know, can you do something creatively that I don't want to sign that? And then if you do, like, people always tell you not to ask.
Yeah.
It's not okay.
Well, that's what I'm saying is
your power goes away.
Right. You have to ask.
Because even if you come up with the confidence to say, I want to ask for this thing,
really good.
There's a system in place around you to really make you question like whether
it's
that's the right thing.
Well, I think it's also hard
for another part later.
You'll make people mad. Or people won't want to work with you again. Or they'll resent you because you're asking for more than they think you're
America
worth.
for president, you guys. Forget it. I'm nominating
America for America. End up doing the same thing. Because there is a double standard.
I think when they start paying you more, they actually respect you.
No, but I'm saying, those are the things and those are the conversations that keep us from asking. I'm agreeing with you, which is you also have to then go to work with these people, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to be in a situation where you're saying, like, I'm worth this thing. You get what you want, and then you step onto a set. I'm not saying that's what happens all the time. I'm saying the fear of that and the idea that we have to ask for what we want and still maintain working relationships makes it different for each of us.
Well, you have to have negotiators that are negotiating on your behalf in an unemotional business way, because at the end of the day, it is a job. it is a business.
That's right.
And you're asking for what you deserve, and
These
it's
are
not
Hollywood
emotional.
problems, guys.
Okay, so
But they're not.
But they're not. They're not.
They're
absolutely
And by the way, we have negotiators and representatives. A nurse in a hospital doesn't have a lawyer representing her.
I'm turning the table a little bit just for interest of time. No,
Take it back.
But I love the fact that it went rogue. But I think it is interesting. With the platforms many of you guys have to be producers and directors and creators too, do you feel an obligation to tell certain types of stories today that you perhaps wouldn't have or wouldn't have the freedom to or the access to even 5-10 years ago?
I wouldn't call it an obligation. I would say, like, I can't
you feel pressure?
Fucking wait to finally
real
like
life.
tell the stories that represent me that no one else is telling me. You know, I just think it's
because a lot of people just aren't aware, and so even you know, in our second season, that's something that we're tackling, just because that's something that I wasn't aware of the scale and the the fact that white women have a great black women, Latina women, and that to me is just astounding in a country where we have laws enacted that's still happening, daily in every industry. And so, no, I don't think that it's an obligation. I don't even think it's a responsibility, but it's real life.
Yeah,
that's a story in and of itself. And it's just the conversations lead to people taking action. And that's the most important part.
Sure. All right, we're going to end with some really lighter questions.
Left turns.
Left turn happening right now. If you could switch places with anyone else in Hollywood for a day, who would you want to be?
Louis C.K.
Louis C.K.?
Mm-hmm.
I want to be Dwayne. I want to be Dwayne Johnson. We also have the same birthday. I want to be Dwayne Johnson, like one of those giants.
He's
like Fried Rock. Yeah, I want to be the Rock. I want to be. Come on, it'd be so fun.
Why?
Why? Yeah. Because he's so big and great and awesome, and he's allowed. I'd like to feel that power, not the power that I feel inside myself, but the power that is actually acknowledged. I feel like that dude walks in and he gets shit done. Whereas I have to fight really hard to get shit done. I don't want to fight. Even though he fights, I don't think he fights.
Yeah.
Love him.
I said Louis.
He really,
I've heard he's the nicest person.
Yes. I said Louis because I think that the only person that my husband loves as much as me is Louis.
That's sweet.
Oprah.
Would she be Louis?
Oprah.
He's a miserable.
Oprah. And then she just decides, like, oh, I'm going to do this acting part, or I'm going to start this school and find it, and then it's just chilling in our backyard with just
I
think there's a lot of that.
And lots of, I mean, chilling in our backyard, which I love to chill in my non-backyard, so I would love that.
What about you guys?
I think Shonda Rhimes, the amount of what she's built for herself and the amount of access she's created for so many other people, and she's just got like the access to tell the stories she wants to tell and elevate the voices that she wants to elevate.
I'd love to like head a studio for a day and just read as much as I could in the shortest amount of time and just say yes to stuff that on a big scale that would not normally get made. So that would be awesome.
That would be
the best friend.
Just to be like, yes, exactly. The Judy career, Kathryn Hahn.
Right off the bat. That would be amazing.
What about you?
I don't have one.
No, be your fucking self.
I know. I kind of like what's happening to me right now, and
For a day, though? Just for a day.
I could use a little more money.
Right. So you want to be who makes the most money?
I'd like my 16-year-old to get an apartment.
You can be Dwayne Johnson with me for a day.
I
I'll
like
split it
you
with
guys ones. I gotta say, Opes and The Rock.
I love him.
And he's got that documentary coming out.
He's got that documentary coming out. No, what he
that.
does as well, like extracurricular stuff that The Rock does. You want to get in on that.
All right, the TV character I most identify with, or current, past, present.
I'm not good at
Moesha. I did. She was like just a regular black girl going to high school, having a crush on two dudes. And I really identified. I was like in middle school when she came out, and I was like, Brandy, hey, you can sing, but you don't sing on the show. It was just, it was cool. I was the last person I felt like that was me. And then black people disappeared from television.
Yep. Probably Zoe's character in New Girl, because I break out into song all the time.
Aww.
Do it right now.
La 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 la.
Who's the middle
you
girl
did
on
that
the Brady
song,
Bunch?
and you made a video.
Jan.
From
the Brady Bunch. Just like
that song.
Jan. One of a big family.
Yes, that's right.
Jan, guys.
You're Jan.
She loved a straight iron.
You see, all
You're
of
the
you,
Jan.
I would Basil Fawlty. Just any time you're just smiling and I asked for a room with a view. There is a view over there. I asked for a room with a view of the sea. It's over there between the land and the sky. Sorry, I
love
feel,
it.
I feel like I'm him often, but he obviously
You dropped way in deeply.
No one knows Fawlty
That was
Towers
a
very
deep drop.
much.
No.
I love him very much.
America, do you have one?
I'm still thinking.
That's okay.
Can you go, Pamela?
The characters in television that I relate to, it would be like Esther Roll from Good Times and Mary Tyler Moore.
Yeah.
You know, now. But I don't know. I used to, like, my favorite shows growing up were like 8 is Enough and The Waltons because I liked the nice family thing. And I wanted to be in that white bread kind of everybody, just like, that made me feel good because my family was janky and weird. And I like, good night, John Boy.
Good night, Mary Ellen.
Good night, Mary Ellen. See,
I loved it too.
I like that.
I want to be
feeling.
them though.
Okay, I have
Tears
one.
of a clown, guys.
Will Smith on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
I like
who I
that.
related to because I always felt like I straddled two worlds. Like I came from, I was in a world that I wasn't really a part of, but I wasn't also a part of another world. Fresh Prince. I could rap that.
Good one.
That's deep.
But
I feel like you could left turn the light stuff into like really philosophical shit, America. Like I'm really, no, it's really beautiful. Like you're a poet.
Well, thank you guys.
Hey, this was awesome. You guys are such
Thank you guys for being a part of this. This is a great
There's really nothing to be
conversation.
nervous about. This was fine.
No, you guys are great.
I loved hearing from you.
You
all.
guys are amazing.
Love
Thank
hearing
you.
Would have been more
me
fun
too.
if we
I
were
wanna hear,
drinking.
Yeah.
Well,
Ooh,
next time.
can we do
Yeah.
it?
Who's to say what was in this glass?
I'm Oprah.
Hey, I'm Issa Rae.
Kathryn Hahn.
Kevin Bacon, Billy Bob Thornton.
Elizabeth Moss.
Chris Jenner, Minnie Driver, and thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching
The Hollywood Reporter.
on YouTube.
On YouTube.
Hold on. Be sure to hit subscribe for more videos.